And Trinity. Here. We also have Mr. Lee and Mr. Tristan. We have appointments.
Wonderful. And
Mr. Bret. I'm sorry.
wonderful. Julie, will you lead us in the pledge this morning?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and approval of minutes.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Legislative reports. I saw for newsletters, we've got a couple. But if you guys don't mind, I'd like to just go right into the old business because I think Mr. Hassert has another place to be this morning. And I want to make sure that we allow everybody plenty of time to ask questions and digest all this wonderful information about our legislators in Springfield. So with that being said, you're on, sir.
Madam Chairman, thank you. Members of the committee. I think.
You move the microphone over.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Or turn it on. Yeah, there you go.
That way you can record me for posterity, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
As you probably aware of, we had a very, very busy session this year. In particular, in the last couple weeks, I've never seen a session in my 20-some plus years down in Springfield was as active. And we've had, let's put it as active, but to a point of where it was pretty hectic towards the last few days. The budget, the good news is during the course of the thing there's some additional talk about adding some new programs in that to balance the budget. There was a windfall of $1.5 billion that were attributed to additional increase in sales and income tax that came over the years, so it allowed them to proceed with the budget in a manner where they didn't have to depend on outside revenue sources from the General Assembly, such as cannabis and some of the other ones that they were talking about that were going to factor into the budget. They basically could do the budget, make the pension payments, and do everything that they needed to do and balance it in a bipartisan way, which is good. It was very hectic towards the end, but there is a budget. It is balanced, quote unquote balanced. Nothing is ever quite fine-tuned in a budget, but if you look on paper, it is balanced. So that was one of the first successes. But towards the end of the session, as you know, the progressive income tax was put into place. Both chambers voted on it. The House in the last week of session, and they also voted on the rates that they would propose. That was passed, and along with that, the cannabis bill was another key issue that was passed. It has an impact on the county because the county can impose a 3% sales tax. I think if you so desire, I think it's by resolution of the county board that you could impose that on the sale of cannabis. Obviously, these type of bills will go through the JCAR, which is Joint Committee on Administrative Rules process, so all the rulemaking will have to be done first. But the way it seems that there's going to be that process, but if I'm not mistaken, we do have a grower here in Will County. Do we have
Yes.
a grower? Okay. The growers, the existing growers seem to have the leg up on that. They're going to be able to, they're going to be licensed, they're ready to go, they're going to start their production, they're going to be expanding pretty quickly. But then there's also what they call these like craft, almost like craft beer, like smaller growers. So I think that's something that the county might have to start looking at from a land use standpoint of dealing with. I don't know until the rules are basically promulgated. We're not exactly sure how everything's going to shake out, but these will be, one source of revenue. Of course, the big news for the county was the capital bill. The county will, thanks to our legislators, and they all participated in helping, participating. We had a very good bipartisan effort in Springfield on the capital bill. As you read in the paper, there's a lot of money for Interstate 80. We're not exactly sure the fine details of exactly how that money is going to be spent, but assuming it's going to be used for the expansion of the bridge, we don't know what else it'll be entailed. Those details will have to be worked out. There's a lot of earmarks in there for the county that our legislators are very good. Like I said, we had everybody participated. The other news in the capital bill, they didn't spell everything out like they've done in the past of, this project, these projects. They lumped a lot of large money into one lump sums. I would assume they did that for a purpose of lack of time. They couldn't vet all the projects that were, put into the capital bill on a line item basis. So they kind of lumped these larger amounts in different budgets. So there will probably be some additional funding available as we move forward. That's going to be up to the General Assembly for appropriation and the governor. But yes.
Can I interrupt you just for a second, because we're on the capital bill projects. Obviously, we got money for 80. I'm pretty sure I read we got money for Route 53. Did we get anything, do you recall, and maybe Nick knows because I know he's been combing through it, Route 6 or the Laraway Road or Eastern Will County improvements?
Nick?
Route 6 I did not see, but I think there are opportunities. I think this is what Brent was kind of hinting at. Is there's other opportunities still to chase some dollars, and I mean, because those lump sum appropriations. So the Route 6, where we looked at the you're talking about Route 6 between 55 and
Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah. So that's something I think can still be chased. The other U.S. I'm sorry.
Laraway Road widening modernization between Gauger and Spencer.
I didn't. Jeff, you didn't hear anything on that. But I mean, that's still a potential build application we may put in for at the federal level. And then the other was
Eastern Will
County got that huge amount of money allocated for the I-57 and Eagle Road interchange.
So that was
Eagle Lake
Road.
Road. There's no Eagle Road.
So 57 did get money for that area.
So insane. You don't need an interchange in that because it goes to nowhere. So insane. Eagle Lake.
Maybe something can be changed.
Also, just keep in mind this is not all bonded money. This is pay-as-you-go. So as the increasing gas tax at the state and license fees and whatnot, they're limiting the bonding authority and they're raising the gas tax. I think is an ongoing index to inflation. So there'll be an increase as it going up. So there'll be ongoing money for projects that will not, you're not identifying right now. 80 was obviously, but IDOT's going to have a much broader spectrum to address other issues within this capital bill because it's a pay-as-you-go where they're not taking the resources of the gas tax and bonding the whole amount out. They're bonding a proportion of that amount, but then they're going to hold back in pay-as-you-go type thing. So their budget, IDOT, will increase every year. So.
And did I hear you say that the gas tax is now tied to inflation, so it's going to automatically go up?
It's indexed, yes.
Okay, that's good because we don't need to wait another 25 years.
Right. So, so there's a lot of positives within that, and within the bill, this was a issue I think is very important to the county. Many years ago, there was back in when I was actually on the county board, there was a piece of legislation that allowed the collar counties to impose a gas tax. We, for some reason, were removed from that legislation back in the late 90s, and DuPage, McHenry, Kane, and obviously Cook all received the authority to impose a gas tax. We were removed. During the process of the capital bill, there's many bills introduced, and one of the proponents of part of the bill was allowed Will County and Lake County to impose a gas tax. and allow the other to go from 4 cents up to 8 cents. Parameters, a minimum of 4 up to 8. That Thursday night, I received a call. For some reason that was yanked out of the bill. We scrambled to make sure that it got back in the bill, which it did with the help of our local legislators and a lot of effort. We got that back in the bill, so now the county has, if you chose, it's up, it's up to the county. If you guys decide to need that additional revenue, the county can impose their own gas tax.
How much?
4 to 8 cents.
That's what I want to make sure.
Brent, is it a minimum? Is it?
Minimum of 4 cents, and you can go up to 8 cents. And I think Jeff has numbers that could indicate how much that would bring into the county. But as I think anybody would tell you, that was something, even as a legislator, I tried to get back into place because it's so important to have that revenue source for what we have to face in the county. And I still think it at least gives you a tool in your toolbox if you choose to use it. That combined, and also with what's the additional local taxes increased because of the gas tax? What would you receive from that?
From the MFT or the
MFT.
We're, like you said, things are kind of, there's opinions on things, but we're guessing around 6.2 million additional from the MFT, and then there's a bonding component that could bring in another. Well, that's up to debate how it's going to be distributed, so I'm not sure if you can quite give that number, but it's at least 6.2 is what we're estimating.
So on top of the option of imposing a gas tax, you would still get a local influx of additional money from the increase from the state tax of $6 million. So it was a very positive, I think, from an infrastructure standpoint. Denise and Nick were up at Lewis Airport. They got their tower money put into place, which is very important for the region. That's been a kind of a sticking point that's going to help out. There's a bunch of different projects for parks and recreations and bike paths, and there's all different components of the capital bill. So
I saw the pickle bill.
So
The pickleball.
pickleball. What is that? I'm not even sure what that
It's
is.
a combination of tennis and some other things, and they're going to build a pickleball park, I think in Lake County, and I'm thinking to myself,
It's a slower version of tennis.
Okay, I did see that. As you know, anytime they do a capital bill, and that's probably why some of the earmarks weren't put in writing, because they didn't have time to vet them.
in addition, the state, and I don't know if our senators are getting it, but I read that the state senators were getting upwards of $6 million for local projects, and my understanding is those aren't identified either, they're just being given that authority.
It depends. Some of them are identified, some of them are not.
Okay. Nick, did you want to
Well,
add
just
something?
for the board's sake, I mean, Jeff, you get about 9 million now in motor fuel.
Correct. Our MFT distribution right now is 9 million.
So we get about 9 million from MFT and 24 million from the RTA currently, right?
Correct.
And so with the 6 plus, maybe 6 or 7, that'll be on top of the 9.
We'll be on top.
So we'll be,
The bonding I talked about,
15%.
we're estimating it could bring another 4, but there's debate as to how
How
it's
that's
distributed, so it could be all in 3 years or it could be all over 6 years. We don't know yet.
Either way, it's good news for our
Right.
roads and
Very
our
good.
potholes.
Right.
Mike,
What about our local government distribution?
that's the next thing I was going to ask about. Yep, go ahead.
I think that stayed the same. You didn't get a,
They didn't change anything on that?
Well, we didn't lose anything more, so I guess that's not the worst thing in the world.
on a couple of bills, Rhonda worked with Julie on a bill to deal with the airport. Basically, Senate Bill 527 is on the governor's desk. That's dealing with the assessment at the Piatone properties for the airport.
Do you know when he's going to sign that?
No.
Could anybody from our group be invited down if he,
Um,
I don't know.
we could probably put a request in. I'm not sure if, how they're handling.
Yeah,
this
and I
bill
don't
signing.
even know how to make that request, so.
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
We'll
Thank you.
say. And also another local bill that we're working on, Senate Bill 158, that allows the Hobo Bridge mechanism to allow that bridge to move forward in providing the privatization on the tolling, and I know the county's working with Centerpoint and establishing the tolls, but this gives the framework to allow that to move forward. That was Senate Bill 527, the one I just talked about, the airport, that was carried by Senator Hutchinson and Larry Walsh Jr., and Senate Bill 158 was carried by Pat McGuire and Larry Walsh too. So, you know, all of our legislators were really, in a bipartisan way, very good for the county this year. I mean, they carried a lot of weight for us and worked very hard on our behalf, and with a little encouragement, we got a lot done. So, but I'd be happy to try to answer. A lot of this, like I said, was done within the last 48 hours of the session. So there's a lot of unanswered questions yet that has to kind of be sorted out. Probably some of that was done with intention, some was done just to get it done.
Yeah.
But we did go into overtime, where it required 71 votes on Saturday and Sunday. So
yeah, they did, yeah, Saturday and Sunday. In our financial and budgetary section, there were three things we were concerned with: probation funding, the sweeping of the 911 surcharge fees and how that affects us, and property tax exemptions. Please tell me they didn't pass any more exemptions.
not to my knowledge, and I'll have to check on the 911. I think there's some listing of sweeps or some potential. I don't think they did. Like I said, the budget was a little different this year because that additional $1.5 billion that came in. It was very typical to sweep funds before to make the budget, but I will have to look into the probation funding and the other one you mentioned on the 911.
911, yeah. Those would be good to know about. We did well with, I guess you would say, perceived health care concerns. We got the $300,000 for a women's recovery home. Thank you. So that was good. I think we got some extra money.
Maybe that's all five.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. It was 3 for just a building, and then there was another 5. Stepping Stones got, yeah. I don't know if there was anything in terms of actual, like, healthcare, because I know we have rural and concerns about e-cigarettes. It seems like there was some bill about e-cigarettes too.
The age is 21.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
upping
they
it
bumped
to 21.
making sure.
Okay.
There's a $1 increase pack for cigarettes. If
Yeah,
we're
isn't
talking
that
about
nice?
Health, that probably will limit some people.
I was stunned. I went into the gas station yesterday. I hadn't looked at the price of cigarettes in eons. I quit like 20 years ago or something, maybe more. And they were cheap. No, they were selling 2 packs for $7
each.
Oh. Oh.
And that's cheaper.
I better pay more
It's
attention to the fine print. I mean, I don't
If you buy just one, it's a little bit more than that. Yeah, they try to give you a
Good, good. Make it expensive.
I think everybody's moving their prices up so that when the taxes hit, for example, like, the parking tax is gonna hit. I don't know if that was $6 or $8, whatever it was.
Yeah, there's a park, there's a bunch of smaller revenue generating parking that will tap certain levels and.
Parking.
And I think it was 6 to 8, because right
Yeah.
now,
Parking
I
lot.
was gonna say, I parked across the merchandise mart yesterday,
Oh.
and for 2 hours or more, it's $57.
Oh, it's not that much. Hold on. It was like 52 before, so it ain't that much higher.
But the tax is not.
Oh, well, it's,
We'll take it to
Like, you gotta
16.25.
use Spot Hero.
yeah, fine spot hero.
Right?
You know, that was an incubator company that came out of Pritzker's incubator. And
Spot
it's-
Hero?
Yeah, it's a really good tool, and you could get parking a lot cheaper, yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. Off-duty carry for sworn officers, do you know if anything happened
No.
with that? Okay. I know that the feds are messing around with the waters of the US. Lots of fun things are happening there. Anything on water, just in general, like water supply
Well,
planning
in the
management
capital
or
bill,
the
they-
DuPage River?
They increased a lot of different funding levels for a lot of different things, for EPA grants and whatnot, for clean water and for flood control. And like I said, there's a lot of lump sum money
Sure.
in there that's not identified how it's going to be used and how they're going to proceed with, allocating that on a yearly basis. I would assume this, typically on a capital bill, they immediately bond it out, and the projects are really upfronted for the first 5 years. I think this capital bill, because of the way it's structured, the governor had indicated on the vertical, which is everything above ground, that it's tied to gaming. By the time you get the land-based casinos up and running, by the time you get it, he was not prone to bond any of that money because of the unknown speculation how much it's going to bring in. So that's kind of as you pay as you go. The other ones that are bondable is, cigarettes you can kind of base. You can kind of get a feel for how much you're going to get. Those type of taxes, like the parking tax is $60 million annually. The type of things, cigarette tax is $150 million. Those are pretty much, if you really want to bond something, you can use that as a base for your bonding companies to say, okay, you have a level funding source to pay back the bonds. So it's going to be, you're not going to see all this happen right away. It's going to take a little while, particularly on the gaming. That's just going to be, except for the video poker, where they allow the additional terminal in these facilities, and they increase the taxes. That probably will happen sooner than later. But the rest of the additional vote, southern, I think it's Rockford, Waukegan, Danville, and a south suburban vote, or gaming, I should say.
Yeah.
And then they expand the positions that you're allowed to expand the existing positions.
Right.
So,
They did read that. Anything on residential recycling, electronics, or anything on the landfills, the quarries? Nothing happening. So we're just in the same place. Okay. Anybody else have questions? Sure. Jude?
I just have a question about taxing cigarettes versus taxing for legal marijuana. I would assume that once marijuana is legalized, there's going to be a lot of people who will switch from smoking tobacco to smoking marijuana.
No.
They're two different studies.
Let's assume a small percentage of the population does that, particularly the younger generation. How do we offset that tax revenue?
well, they're taxing. They're taxing.
Are they, is it
They're
comparable?
taxing.
It'll be comparable?
Yeah, recreational marijuana is getting taxed. And, there's a fine line. The argument is if you go to a certain point, you drive it back to the black market if you start taxing too high on recreational marijuana. I'm not an expert on it. I have, other than the 3% tax that the county can put on, I followed it, but I didn't follow it, so.
I can give you a little insight. There are taxes on marijuana based on the level of THC in there that range anywhere from 15 to 25%, depending on the level of THC, which is the active ingredient. So there's going to be a lot of tax dollars generated from that.
How do you know so much about it?
All transparency, I'm an investor in Revolution Enterprises, which is a grow facility.
Gotcha.
So, and they are, and like you said, there are 19 grow facilities in the state
one
right
for
now.
this-
These were all for medical, which was my reason for investing in it. There are 19 facilities right now which are all probably going to double or triple capacity as fast as they can. Most of the places weren't producing capacity anyway, because there were only 22,000 people that had subscribed for medical issues right now. But since this expansion, they'll be able to produce more because you can turn it about 5 times a year within a facility, and they're all expanding their facilities as fast as they can.
I think on medical marijuana, they also expand the use of, if you have something else that they allow for pain and migraines or something, they expanded that.
So
Yeah, because they
CBDs,
did not has that. That was one of the things that they left out was for chronic pain in the beginning. So that's now added in. Yeah, and that makes so much sense.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, from my perspective, a while back they had the increase of the minimum wage to $15 progressively there. The way I look at all the taxes that came out, that basically wipes that out. By the time you look at somebody who's making that small amount of money, and they got to pay, they're smoking, they're drinking beer, they drink wine, gas tax, increase in the vehicle tax. I mean, it's just like, I think it's just an assault upon that group of people who are lower income, because they're going to be paying those taxes like everybody, and I think that was ridiculous. I also, and I have a question at the end of this, I also am aware of the fact that the legislators told the governor that if he wanted what he wanted, they needed to support their projects. So in other words, he had only been in office for 4 months, and because of that, then they, if he wanted them to support him, then they needed to go ahead and support what they wanted, which is the airport in Keystone. I find that really, that was a group of Democrats, and the Republicans heard about it, then I heard that they were all jumping on board, that they wanted projects. So the end budget ends up being $1 billion more than the governor proposed, which to me is pretty bad. It's pretty bad if the governor's going to fold and take the pressure. As a governor, you need to be a leader. You shouldn't fold and bend down for things. But with all these additional taxes that are coming on, my question is this. Are there any reforms in here? Because for me, if you're getting additional dollars and you're asking the everyday person to pay more to balance your budgets of what is wanted by whatever legislator, are we doing any reforms? Because if we don't do any reforms, any extra money just gets built up as all the different dollars get paid and projects come out there. The state unions want more and more all the time for their coffers. What reforms are in this budget?
Well, the major reform that has always been the elephant in the room has been the pension reform, and that hasn't taken place in the budget or been addressed. They nibble around the edges on this issue, but that's probably the one and only reform, if you look at something that could probably be done to impact the bottom line, is the pension reform.
Right, and the thing that they always make this comment, well, we had to make a hard decision, we had to make this hard decision. The hard decision is making the union contracts for the state and government employees be sustainable, because the way they are right now, they're unsustainable. There is no way we can continue paying more and more. As people continue to leave Illinois, as we see, there have to be this, and it's pretty sad that nobody decided that they were going to attack that. They need to look at that. They need to see what can we do to make changes so that as we go into the future, as new people get hired on into these positions, that there's different things in place so that, like we face here at the county. I mean, we got comp time to deal with. We got all these different issues to deal with all the time that cost us money, and it's not sustainable. We cannot tax enough to pay for it. And that to me has to be addressed, and it's unfortunate that wasn't addressed.
I appreciate your comments, Judy. I guess I would say that I don't know that Brent can really answer that. That's more, we need to have that conversation individually with our legislators. But I did want to ask a couple of quick questions. The Capitol bill, that's a 5-year deal? Is that right? 4-year?
Well, yes and no. I mean, the bonding and some of the identified shovel-ready projects will take place as quicker and later, but nobody knows how long before you see the improvements on 80.
Right.
Because the engineering, because you have to go through.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
It takes a long time.
But the money, I guess, is basically, I mean,
well,
we
the
shouldn't
money is
expect
as
it.
you go.
Yes.
It's going to be an ongoing for years.
So you think longer than 5, maybe
Yes.
10?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't think you can put even you can even barely put a number on it. I think you'll see it. The bonds will be sold depending how that money will dribble out. It will not just be boom next year. It'll dribble out over 5 or 6 years. These projects could take up to 10 years before you see. Joliet Junior College, I represent Joliet Junior College along with Julie too. And we just finally got our $19 million. Last year we got the $10 million when we first got our budget. Got the $19 million for downtown campus. That's been going on for a long time.
At least 10 years.
And, you know, it finally got, you know.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure. And then I read an article that, you know, the next thing they're going to address is property tax reform, because obviously with all the higher taxes, they want to try to bring down, you know, the school portion of your property tax bill by funding the schools more. Other than the plan they put in place last year and the extra money they gave to higher ed this year in this budget, I don't think they've actually put anything on paper yet, right?
Well, do you want an honest answer, please?
Yeah. I mean, because they were talking about reducing or at
Property
least
tax
freezing.
reform is basically a very good buzzword, and if you really think about it, to actually get actual reduction in your property tax bill, you would have to probably generate an additional $2 to $3 billion in state taxes to actually offset any of the property taxes, but you still have the authority to tax at the local levels, which means the local boards can do as they want. So I don't want everybody to, you know, and listen, I've been in this position, I've put out press releases and I've talked about property tax reform too. The realistic point of it is you have to come up with the dollars to replace the dollars at the local level. And that, somebody has to pay for that at the state level then.
Yeah.
So you're shifting the burden to a different level.
Well, if they got,
Even with the progressive tax, you can only go to that pool at a point in time to increase it. Now, this might be more of an editorial opinion on my part, so don't take this, you might disagree with me, but realistically, property tax reform is kind of that magic number that it's pretty hard pressed to say that you're going to see a major property tax. There's a task force, they put a task force together to deal with it.
I heard that's the sign of death.
But we've had many task force on this issue, so you know, I want to think that personal opinion. You know, 15% of the people vote for school board elections. They have no idea what their money's being spent on, and until you change that habit and accountability at local level, it's a little different. So
I was just kind of hoping that maybe they would do something on pension reform, and I think they still have time to put something on the bill on the next election cycle, you know, to open up the Constitution and make a change to that automatic 3% increase. And if they did that, I mean, I don't know if that would be enough money to help fund the schools at an additional level so that, you know, local school boards didn't have to raise.
It probably wouldn't help you on the local level. What it would do is make the pension sustainable.
Yeah, that too. I mean, I'd like to do a couple of things, but that's me. Mike?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention we're talking about, you know, what is this tax dollar helping? You know, in the case of the marijuana, we're going to have to vote on that. And if there's 3.5% that we vote on, the key is we need to stand strong and say that 3.5% is going to go directly to drug prevention and drug programs here, and not be tempted to take some of that money and use it other places. So if we do that, at least we'll help in the prevention of some of the issues that will come up and are already here. So
I think that was the sentiment that was expressed last month, and it makes a lot of sense, although in light of our problems with school boards, maybe we should use the money to educate the voters about how important the school board is. 15% is pretty shabby, you know? And those are the people spending all your money. I mean, it's 70% plus of your property tax bill, and literally nobody votes. 15% if you're lucky, but in many cases it's even closer to 10%, and they're spending the money.
Well, I'm not going to suggest that the school boards are doing a bad job. That was my intention. But, you know, budgets are budgets, and there's people usually clamoring for a need. And I don't think people just, elected officials, in my experience, just don't come up and create new ideas. It's usually driven by some problem.
Yeah, no, and I wouldn't suggest that they're wasting the money. I just think people need to be more educated about where their money is going, and then perhaps they wouldn't be quite so cranky when they have to pay the bill. Beth?
My question, I just guess I should confirm, for the progressive income tax, that is going to be on the ballot in 2020 for the voters to decide,
Yes.
right? Okay, so I have heard conflicting things about the language that will be on the ballot. And I tried on my own to figure out if it's known currently what the language will be, not the program, not the proposal, but the actual language that a voter will see.
I
And I'm-
don't think it's been.
I don't think it's
Okay.
right.
I don't think it's, no. I
That's-
think it's just allowed for the Constitution, but they have to draft the language to put
Okay.
on the ballot. and
That's
then-
what it seemed my research showed, but I had heard that it was ready and couldn't find it anywhere, and I thought that was pretty surprising to me that that was done, considering the Fast
I
and
think the
Furious.
confusion is that they wanted to put the bill out there for the rate structure to make sure people knew what they're voting on. And they felt
Okay.
that the rates would be important. You could put the constitutional amendments, they were going to do progressive tax and not even talk about rates. But they chose, the governor was insisted upon passing a bill that defined the rates so people would know once they went to the poll. Now, the argument on that side is, oh, you can always change that, which is true.
Okay,
But you want to identify the rates that they're going to be voting on at least the first go-around, and
Okay.
what the kind of money that would generate.
okay, so as far as you know, it really is still forthcoming about the exact language then?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
thank you.
it's going to be on the ballot.
And I had sent you an article about like all the other states that have this and how most of the states have not changed the rates over the period of time they've had it. A few have actually lowered their rate, because I know the big fear is that people believe that, Springfield's just going to up the rate every year. But,
But that's the argument.
yeah. Any other questions, anybody? Nick?
I know we talked yesterday about, there's going to be a committee of the whole on this to talk, and I think we'll work with Denise and Maura, and I've talked to Brent about working together to kind of drill down on some of the stuff, because a lot of the stuff is still yet to be defined, so we can't really tell you all the answers today, because some of them are like the J-car rules and how fast the money's going to come. But just, Brent mentioned Joliet Junior College, which got their 19 million. But Governor's State also got close to 30 million. These are some of the big projects that are written in there. Whether you agree with them or not, I'm just telling you they're coming back. And then City of Joliet, Hickory Creek Channel Improvements got 5 million. And Romeoville got 3 million, in addition to the airport, which was 6. They got 3 million for a road extension, which is going to generate more economic development kind of along the Weber Road corridor. So there are some, in addition to the two big pots, the I-80 and the 57 improvements, there are some other big, either educational or economic development supportive things. And I guess the channel improvement's a quality of life issue in Joliet. But there is a lot of money out there coming back.
Helps to have friends in
So,
high
right,
places.
so, well, and I think Will County should be somewhat happy that if we're gonna pay for this stuff, we're getting money back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and we need it. And that's, I think, our advocacy work and all our legislators and congressional delegation, that's what made this happen. Is
Yeah.
everybody working together bipartisanly to get guys.
Yeah, I cannot tell you that our members down in Springfield did a phenomenal job from north to south. I mean, they, east, we had a land use transfer for Thorn Creek. Roy Hutchison carried it at the last minute. We got it done within 5 days. We had it turned over and got it done and got it on to somebody else's bill, but Toy was instrumental in helping us get that worked through. So Will County did very, very well in this session, and our legislators deserve a lot of credit.
It's
for what they
exciting.
did.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to give them.
Good
And
job.
I would suggest that in any way you guys can express your thanks to them. You should, because they did a good job.
Yep. No, it's exciting because we're typically a payer state, at least on the federal level. We put more out there than we ever get back. So it's nice to finally get something back. It's a good thing.
Yeah, I just wanna make a comment, with the comments about a lot of money put in I-80. We've been talking about I-80 for a long time. We also talk about I-55, funding for that and this. If they've thrown 150 million plus another 12 for the I-57, which we have interchanges all along I-57. We need interchange improvements at Moni Manhattan. We need interchange improvements at Peatone, Wilmington Road. That particular exit down there is really terrible to get off with the semi. We got a lot of semis going there. So addressing the Eagle Lake Road, which is in the middle of nowhere to nowhere.
Maybe we
I
can
call
change
it,
it.
I call it the interchange to nowhere, kind of like you've heard of the bridge to nowhere. And then in addition to the fact that, as a board, we still need to look at the impact of the airport. The airport has been a negative impact to Eastern Will County for a very long time. 30-some, 40, 50 years, depending on how far back you want to go. 32 years exactly since they started it, and they started purchasing the property in 2002. As far as Senator Hutchinson goes, well, she did put SB 527. She didn't do anything to address the water drainage issues we have, because she did not put in any language in there for our drainage district fees. I do have residents that call me all the time, they got flooding, they got flooding. This is not addressed. These issues are out there, and they're not taking good care of the land that the farmers are using, because there's no stipulations such as we have from the Forest Reserve. We have ours as a conservation, and we do that. In addition to that, that language from Senate Bill 20 passed by the help with Al Riley back in 2013. That is a negative to Will County. That's a negative. We all know it's negative. Aaron Quick, who is our consultant, said that. That is something that we need to look at. If everyone in this room thinks an airport being built in Peatone is a great idea, you need to see how it's going to impact you and what the negative facts are going to be on that. So we got it. We got an interchange to nowhere. When we got dire transportation needs in Eastern Will County, where we can have better truck routing, which would really help. And they're throwing all this money on here because of the, I like Steve Bellish's term, predators from Cook County. I like that. They come out here, they don't have an economic plan in their district, they come out to Will County and make an economic plan. If 5 people in each one of those communities in the south suburbs gets a job at the airport, what are they going to do? They're probably going to move out of those communities, and not an improvement of those communities at all. That's what we need to do. So this is something we need to look at. It's a critical thing and how it's going to impact us.
I think there's some discussion that we're going to have. Denise, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not talking about like a committee of the whole to kind of reintroduce all the new board members to, or introduce all the new board members to the airport concerns.
We have not.
We have not picked a date. I thought I heard discussion
The
about,
committee of the whole is scheduled for the capital.
just for the capital.
We're talking about that. We may do some informational things about the possibility of the airport, but that is not planned.
We don't have a planned date yet.
No,
Okay.
we do not.
But it is
We
something
have
to
the
talk
capital
about.
first. We understand that there's a lot of sentiment around the airport, the possibility of the airport. We are not forward on that yet because we're not clear yet how that's going to shake out.
Anything else on the legislative agenda? Meeting.
I know that, Mike, you might know this, Brent, I'm not sure if you know this, but, so the last thing I read about the marijuana bill is that there's another bill that would allow counties to tax 3% on top of the municipal taxes. But it's like, there seems to be some question of whether or not the governor is going to sign that. Do you guys have any sense of?
No, that's in the cannabis bill, he's gonna sign it.
No, there's a second bill, because at least this is my understanding, that the cannabis bill says that municipalities can tax up to 3%, the counties can tack on an extra 3/4% on top of that in incorporated areas. But then there was a separate bill that said that counties can tack on 3% on top of the municipalities instead of the 3/4%. So,
I thought that was all the same.
I thought they amended the underlying bill because the complaint was downstate. They felt in the districts that they had these grower facilities, they weren't they weren't receiving a lot of revenue because they don't have dispensaries and whatnot, such as the urban areas. So they asked for additional revenue to be tacked on.
Which makes sense,
So
yeah.
in certain areas, not, you know,
Okay,
unless
so
you
that
have a
is
grower
part of the
or
whole
a
thing.
dispensary, it doesn't really, it's not going to generate. But up here, I'm not sure how many dispensaries we have and growers. We have one grower?
I think just one.
Okay, one. But we have multiple dispensaries.
Right.
And then there's also part of the bill that they have the craft growers where you can, smaller growers are encouraging people to be able to get into the business at a smaller level. So, and again, but I'll check that out.
I know it's a lot of.
I'm not sure. I thought that was amended to the original, part of the original.
Okay, maybe it was, maybe.
Okay,
Maybe
but I
it's
will,
this
I
last
will
time,
look.
because it seemed to
I
change
did
a
not
lot
see
in the
that
last
as
minute.
a,
Okay,
as a separate bill.
okay.
And
I could be wrong.
I had
Those are
some,
flying.
I had some questions from constituents about the ability to grow plants at home. I guess originally it was 5, it is out. I just
Unless you're
wanted,
medical.
only medical. Okay, very good. Rachel, did you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to clarify some of those numbers on the tax, on the the incorporated, unincorporated, and then the cities. What were the taxes on the marijuana? Do you know offhand?
For which now?
For taxing in the cities, out of the cities?
I think it's 3% in the cities, and I think we can add an additional 3%.
So up to another 3%?
Right, we can add 3% countywide.
Okay.
Countywide, meaning also like,
Within the municipalities, we can
Okay.
add anything that's going in.
I had a question about the market. So who determines the price of the product? Or is it a free market system? I know in Michigan, they have some guidelines. They sell a lot of the medical products and the creams and the ointments. And so is that all set up in Illinois? Is there a procedure?
We're in a capitalist country, so it's free market.
yeah, it's a
So
free
whatever the
market.
market will bear, the price of marijuana recently was in the $3,200 to $3,600 a pound. And it all depends on supply and demand. The demand initially was really low. They only had about 3,000 people sign up for medical. Now that there's 22,000, there's more demand. I'm interested to see what's going to happen with the small growers, because the hoops that you have to go through, every item has to be bagged a certain way and it has to be scan coded and all of those things. The second thing that's different stuff is people growing at home is just growing regular marijuana. The stuff that's coming out of these facilities now, we have scientists and stuff breaking things down for different maladies, and it's more or less a drug company.
Mhm.
On a smaller scale, but they're doing a way more things than you're going to do at home. So it's interesting that they left that in there, because there's really no control over it.
Well, and then who regulates that? Where's the staff coming from?
State.
Because the state, so
Department of Agriculture.
again, that's, how much does that cost? Are
Well,
they
it's
talking
all going
about
to be
that?
factored in to the running, obviously the program, when it generates taxes, the fees will be paying for the overhead cost of running the program, just like any other program we have in the state.
Yeah.
How do you implement it?
I mean, we try to do that here at the county level, charge fees that actually cover our real costs. We've raised fees on a boatload of things over the last 10 years I've been on the board, especially in the health department with like pool inspections, well inspections, food inspections, just lots of different and applications and stuff in land use. I mean, we've revamped our scales a lot to start to really cover the cost and also to be fair and charge as much as surrounding counties. You know, why should we be the cheapest person in town?
Well, we are the cheapest person in town.
Yeah.
It's just our-
It attracts businesses.
The tax isn't going to make a difference in the overall price, honestly.
No.
It's not going to.
Tax would come.
And people go to certain dispensaries to look for certain products
All right.
because of the difference in them, so.
I was, one quick thing
Okay.
too, maybe somebody knows, I was kind of curious in trying to find the medical conditions that were approved to have a medical marijuana license.
Yeah, it's online. Yeah, it's there. Okay, so we need to get going. I'm sure Brent needs to get going. Because we have some other things to discuss and we're down to 40 minutes left, so I'm gonna move along. Brent, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And you and Julie for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Very, very much appreciated. And Lee, you too. Didn't want to leave you out. Nick's covering you this morning.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Okay, so if you guys want to go back up to the newsletters, anybody want to bring up any questions or discussions in the SACO newsletter, anything you're concerned about?
How do we get it quantified? What was it?
You've signed up for it, I've signed up for it, and then the county board office sends it out.
To make sure that everyone's getting it.
Yeah, so that's why you get it twice. The second time, if you'll note in the subject, it says forward.
Right.
And then,
So the county board, you all send it out here?
We send, we email it out, but we
Some
can also
folks
send
print
it
sign
out.
up for getting it, so they make sure we,
Yeah, yeah.
so they make sure we get it.
So I don't know if anybody had
I got
any
it.
questions about any of the issues. There's 3 of them in here. The one from June 3rd, May 24th, May 17th, all since our last meeting, and then probably, is Friday the 3rd? No, I thought we got another one on Friday. Yeah, that would have been, yeah, maybe it came out on Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I got 2, yes.
Yeah. Anything else? Mimi, when's the next meeting, do you know?
I'm only the large county.
Yeah, but when's your next one?
We don't have one set
No.
at the moment, but there is
Okay.
If you're asking about
Soccer
ISACO overall,
Mhm.
there will be a meeting on Friday the 14th out in King County.
Okay, awesome.
Which
And
I
can,
intend on being having.
yeah, can visitors go? Is it open? I assume it's open.
It's a public meeting and people want to.
Yeah, so if anybody on the board wanted to go, they could go and listen, check it out, whatever. Okay, so if there's no questions about that, then I guess we'll move on to the discussion about opting into video gaming. Anybody want to have anything to
Oh,
say?
we have a discussion.
Sure. You know,
Sure.
yeah.
Where my part of the county is, we have a couple of towns near us, a couple of areas near us that do have this sort of establishments. So I've been talking with their leadership in their town about how that's been working out for them, what they've put in place, you know, for things like that. The feedback I've been getting is that, from Oswego anyways, is that a lot of the people who patronize these places are, as it was put to me, little old ladies who don't want to go to the boat or to the casino, is what they're seeing a lot of, right? Another community I spoke with talked to me about how they handle keeping separation between these sorts of video gaming establishments and things like that, and so so I'm doing a little research of the places up around me that already have it to find out how it's working out for them and I mean, it's been going on now for a couple of years. What's the result? What's going on? Are you having any, you know, issues and things like that? So.
Okay. Judy, did you have anything?
Just from the last time when I put it out on Facebook, and I would say it's probably 60-40 out by me, was 60% were opposed, 40% were for it. It's nearly 50-50, so that's really all.
Tyler?
Well, as I said last month, I still think that it's unfair that we allow some businesses in the county to do it and others not to, because we waited to opt in. So some people were able to get it, and I don't think that any government should prohibit a fair business environment, and I think that's what we kind of did unintentionally when we waited to opt out. So that's where I am on it.
Waited to opt in.
Opt in, opt out.
Opt into
We
the
did opt
ban,
out.
which is
Opt in,
opting
opt in
out
into
of
the
the
ban.
bill.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Lori.
And some of the businesses out by us were grandfathered in because they were unincorporated. The stuff that I saw on Facebook was mainly from the people within the municipalities and people that just didn't like it to begin with. So as far as what it's done, I've not heard any complaints, but I do know that the 2 places that are in the unincorporated area out by me would be shut right now if they didn't have it. So they would have lost their business.
And the municipalities can still opt out and stay out. We don't have any control over that at all. Mimi?
So I've been on the fence about this, and I am now leaning against, and I'd just like to clarify as to why. First of all, I think that in general, there's significant evidence to show that gambling is a regressive policy, and that it hits lower income areas much harder. I understand there's a personal choice involved. However, when Illinois made gambling more accessible and more legal, there was supposed to be funds that went towards gambling addiction services. That has not happened. Gambling addiction in the state has risen considerably, and there are no ways for, gambling addiction, what often happens is you end up stealing someone else's money to cover your gambling debts, and there is no way for that other person to recoup those funds. Furthermore, it's actually cost the state money and cost local governments money because video gambling is taxed at a rate that's much more friendly to the video gambling companies than it is to the business owners who host the games, or certainly, of course, to the people who are using them, as opposed to the casinos, which take in more money as a tax rate goes. And the state overall, and in a trickle-down way, our municipalities and counties have lost money because the income from the casinos has dropped where we had a better taxing rate. I will say that this most likely does not affect my district because I don't think we have any unincorporated non-residential areas in our district, Julie. I'm not totally positive, but so it's unlikely to directly impact my district, but at this point I am leaning towards no for those reasons. Oops, sorry.
Beth, did you want to say something?
Yeah, can I go first? Oh, you said that? Okay. I too, like Mimi, had been on the fence for a while, but fence wouldn't hold me up very long. I had to come down. However, I have been getting visits and calls from persons within our district, Denise, that 100% supportive of this. And I've always been a person, my employers are the person that vote for me. And so obviously we have to listen to them. And so I would be coming down the fence on the side of supporting that. I think we should opt in because I do see how it could benefit those businesses. As you said, some of them might be out of business right now had it not been for that support. So I certainly would support it.
Beth?
And I just want to share that I support opting in, and my opinions are very much from Tyler's perspective, not necessarily my views on gambling, because my comments might be different, but my comments on all businesses having the same opportunities to build their business as they see fit for their community, and I hope that, you know, we can opt in.
I would have to agree with both you and Mimi. I do feel like this is a regressive form of taxation. However, since Illinois seems to be the new Las Vegas of the Midwest, with all of the new gambling that has just been approved, you know, sports betting and so forth, I don't think it's fair. I don't think we're working in a free market, and we can't control what the municipalities do, but as a county, I think we can certainly try to play fair. So I would entertain, if somebody wants to make a motion, that we move this to the full county board.
Sure. Motion.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the ayes have it. We're going to bring it to the full county board. Beth?
It will be in July because you'll have to have a public hearing.
Right. Yeah, we have to do a public hearing. That'll be at our July legislative conference meeting, which, by the way, I think we already asked, but I think everybody was going to be here July 9th, 10th? 9th, yeah, 9th. So, so we'll have the public hearing during that meeting, and then we should be able to vote on it at the July full board meeting. Anything else? I know there was some issues brought to me during the month to talk a little bit about voting, and we have kind of postponed putting that on the agenda for this month, but hopefully we'll be able to put it on for next month. Mimi had brought information forward about, what's the name of this?
Ballot integrity.
Yeah, ballot integrity.
Concerned with election security.
Yeah, election security, and so given, you know,
Our election systems seem to be open at least to people from Russia to have some influence. Not the voting system, just their influence via social media, etc. I don't know that they've hacked into any of our machines, Lord, don't misquote me. But anyway, so we were going to have some discussion about that. I know, Beth, that addressed one of your concerns about our legislative agenda. I know we put something in the federal agenda, but this kind of goes towards that, to discuss that.
I think it's really important. I think it's on a lot of voters' minds.
Yeah. Understood. Anything else from anyone else? Okay. Well, since we don't have anything else, public comment, please. Oh, Lori, go ahead. No.
I just have to say this. I want to make a clarification of something. The actual airport is in Beecher, not Peatone.
Ah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Everybody always calls it the Peatone Airport.
Sayers owned that airport to begin with, and then Bolts bought it.
Goldfield.
I went to, yes, we call it the Peatone Airport, but the actual airport is in
Beecher.
Goldfield, right, Goldfield is
In
the old
Beecher.
Sanger Airport. It's in unincorporated Beecher, Maryland, yes.
Huh.
I went to high school with the people that own it.
Okay. That's interesting.
But that's Goldfield, we're not talking about.
Right. The whole footprint.
Which is 5,200 acres, which, that stretches from Peatone to Beecher. You take it to 20,000, it encompasses all the land between Moni, Peatone, and Beecher.
So we could call it the Moni Beecher Peatone Airport.
There you go.
It's sort of like ORD. Yeah, we can. I love it. We'll rename that little airport. All right. Any public comments? Anybody else? Public want to speak up? Public?
That's why.
Come on up, bro.
Come on up, man. We like public comment. This is the best part of the meeting.
My voice carries pretty well. First of all, good morning, everyone. My name is Ernie Deloach, and I'm here with Brother Fred Henderson. Brother Ike Williams Jr. just left. He had another meeting to attend.
He came back. He
did come back?
He was late, but he came back.
Well, we represent 40 Rail Slides 167. We're a nonprofit fraternal organization, and you actually stated the things we try and do as far as in the community, Morning Star Mission, Special Olympics, Fairmont Food Pantry. We have a coat and caps program for the kids, different things we try and do in the community. It's getting hard. As you look around, Brother Williams is pretty young, but Fred and I are kind of sneaking up there a little bit. And we need the extra revenue, because right now funding sources are only getting so far. And I'd like to thank the board members here in the committee for moving it to the full county board. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other public comment? I'll entertain. Yes,
I just wanted to add, people today, they gamble using virtually every type of medium out there.
including your cell phone.
Cell phones, television, fantasy football. People are gambling all the time, and most of the time it's harmless, and they do it for fun. But there's no dispute about the fact that it is the livelihood of a lot of critical organizations in our community, small organizations that do a lot of good and a lot of charitable work. So those are the reasons why I'm supporting this, and also I've observed this in Cook County for many years, haven't seen any issues. Talked to restaurant owners and different businesses, and I believe that it's been, a lot of the issues have been ironed out by other counties. So I think that this will be successful and overall will accomplish a lot of good in our county. So I do support those organizations and this bill. Thank you.
All right, with no further comments, I'll entertain a
Motion
motion.
to adjourn.
Thank you. All those in favor?
I do.
Opposed, same sign. We are done.